That's one point where Gene Hackman yelling at him makes sense. Irv, get your ass back over there and take those rocker panels out.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the BTB Movie Club podcast. My name is Ryan Malo. We hope you enjoyed today's movie discussion. Thanks for listening.
We are on movie number 221. This is Malo's pick. We are here to talk about The French Connection, the 5-time Oscar award-winning movie from 1971. Runtime 104 minutes. Thank you for picking something so short, Malo. Easy to catch this one in this week. Let's roll with The French Connection. Remind us again why you picked it, and let's have some fun with the conversation.
Yeah, one of those that I'd always meant to watch all the way through. I know I'd caught parts here and there or knew quite a bit about, knew it was well received and all of that. But, obviously the passing of Gene Hackman seemed like a good time to bring this one to the group. So that's how we got here. And I thought about it a fair amount and then ran out of time. I'm like, oh, Tim did that kind of lightning round thing. It was kind of cool.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe I could pick the order based on, I don't know, some category. And I came up with nothing. And so.
Was it because you were picking your feet in Poughkeepsie?
Yeah, right. Well, I got something about Poughkeepsie later, but.
Okay. All right.
It was not that. But, I just, I don't know. I'm curious to hear what you guys think, because I definitely had some thoughts. And when you get a movie that's well regarded, but a lot of time has passed, it's interesting what holds up and what doesn't. And, so we'll start with Dan, though. I'm just going left to right. That's the great system I got tonight.
All right. Yeah. 54-year-old movie. I mean, I think it still mostly holds up. There's there's of course some things that was indicative of this time period. You got some African Americans being shaken down at the bar. You got
in Harlem. Yeah, right.
Yeah. With calling the guy a frog, frog one, and so it's things like that are a little cringeworthy for these days. But
now, Dan, just in case this helps out the conversation, is it correct that you're the only one in the group that was alive when this movie was out?
Probably.
Okay. I don't know if that's going to help the conversation or not. Just thought it should be out there as we move forward.
Wait,
72.
Oh, okay. Then probably, yes. I was the only one alive. Not that I watched it in 1971 at, 4 years old.
Was Aaron?
No, he's younger than me.
Okay.
But, I think I watched this sometime in the 80s, but I couldn't really remember. I didn't, remember a whole lot about it. I thought it was a little strange. I had to look up Roy Schneider because I thought that he was a big star at this time, but I guess he wasn't. He was fairly, early on in his career. This movie, and he did another movie the same year. Clutch or Cooch, I think it was called, that had Oscar considerations also. So I did the two movies in 71 that really put him into the limelight. But yeah, it's just basically Gene Hackman. His character is the only one that's developed in the whole movie. Everybody else is, bringing up the rear behind him. But the car chase scene is definitely iconic in this movie. Really, and when he's doing this car chase, he doesn't care about anybody. He doesn't care about smashing the cars, doesn't care about running over people. He avoided the baby at the one point, thank goodness. But I think if he would have hit somebody, he wouldn't have dissuaded him at all. Just like in the end when he shoots at federal officer, it's just kind of, oh well, whatever.
He did not care. He did not care.
Gotta go get the bad guy. Which seemed a little strange that he got away, because I took this Ward's Island as just one entrance by the bridge. unless I'm wrong about that. So I don't know how he could have got away. Um, and they were covering that bridge. So a little surprised he got away. I know this is, based on a true story. Um, but a couple of things I wrote down when he shot the guy in the back, was that murder? Because he was running away from him. Was he just sick and tired of chasing him and said, "I'm not going to
Yeah.
chase you anymore"? And
He did look tired. He looked.
yeah, but that's I think that's a kind of a dilemma for police. Shooting somebody in the back is what's the situation there? Um,
If you know the guy was a sniper assassin on a roof, I think you get a little more leeway with shooting him as he's trying to run away.
True, yeah. He's putting all these people's lives in jeopardy. If he would
Yeah.
have ran off, might have killed somebody else. Who knows? Um, what else we got here? But yeah, I mean, his single-mindedness. This whole movie, the whole movie's kind of to me like a chase movie. The entire time he's chasing on foot. These people, he's on a train chasing them. He's in a car chasing them. The whole time he's after these guys. Um, I think at some point though you have to give up. When the guy knew he was following him and he kept getting on and off the train, and everything, it's like, okay, he knows. So there's just give it up. Just walk right up to him and say, "I'm following you.
Yeah.
Where are we going?"
Yeah. Just sit down next to him and make it easier on everybody.
Yep. But the way this movie was shot, the landscape, it just looks like an apocalyptic wasteland. It's all blue and grays and cloudy skies and cold. I don't think you see the sun in this entire movie. So I'm pretty sure that's what they wanted, the way they wanted to shoot it. But yeah, I'll stop some there. I got some other things, but yeah, I think it's still a good movie. I think it still holds up, and we'll see if just because I'm the old guy in the group, I think that maybe the young people will
Hmm.
have a different opinion about that.
Some
But decent
potential
pick.
about
I liked it.
Thank you, old man Dan. Appreciate that.
that.
All right, Tim, you're up.
Okay. I watched this like a year ago with the other movie group, but I had never seen it before. And having not seen it, it does have an old-timey feel to me. So for me, I don't know that it holds up as well. And it's also kind of fragmented. Like it's hard to follow at the beginning. Um, you see a guy wandering around having a sandwich, looks like he's following some people, then he gets shot. You don't hear another thing about it. I'm assuming that was a French version of a detective that was following him.
Yep.
And the guy who shoots him, I'm pretty sure, ends up being the assassin that Popeye kills at the end. Um, I think, but you don't really know. And then they speak French, and you don't know what they're saying. So he's over there talking to his wife or girlfriend. We gets a mink coat on the side of a cliff, and then he's in a car. Like there's a whole lot of stuff that's difficult to follow. I think I got it in the end, but that's jarring, especially like that doesn't play off very well in 2025 for you to fill in the holes. I thought it was really weird that they continued to have conversations in French where you're not allowed to know what's going on. Um, you look like you got
Wait,
a point for that.
yeah. So I, Jamie and I like put subtitles on,
Yeah.
nothing. And I looked into something. eh, Unless I'm mistaken, I believe the original film had subtitles,
Oh,
but they said
They
that
had them on
this.
YouTube.
So I was gonna say when they something with Amazon Prime, and it's happened with a couple other films for whatever reason
okay.
they didn't have them. So it's there's like
Oh,
20% of the movie that is
Yeah.
in French. And what was hilarious, if you had subtitles on, like bonjour and merci and shit, like that would show up. But then they would say a sentence, and I don't know, the guy typing was just like, I don't know, I got
So
nothing.
can I throw something in on that too?
Yeah, please do.
Yeah.
So I had it going on YouTube, just on my phone, and they had subtitles whenever they're speaking French, and it was translation. And I don't know why I thought to, well, I know why I thought to, but I went and like actually the subtitles weren't on like on the YouTube option. So I went and I like turned them on because I was like, I don't know, just have everybody speaking. And when I turned the English, like the regular subtitles on, then they stopped showing subtitles for the French. There was only one time where it said in parentheses, speaking French. And I'm like,
Yeah.
well, this is harder to understand than what I just had. So I turned
Yeah.
the captions off, and then they had the the translation again. I'm like, I don't know, man.
Yeah,
Yeah, for me it had the captions. I just ran it from Xfinity. I could see where it
wow.
would be confusing if it wasn't showing what they were saying.
Yeah, I had no idea what the French people were saying at any time, but I got used to it. I was like bad guys saying bad things to each other. All right, moving on. And I thought it was purposeful. Like, okay, I don't get to know. That's not need to know information. But anyway, so I wrote down the first 5 or 6 scenes just like as to get into this plot. There's the opening scene where the French detective gets shot, and I just wrote down that he bought French bread. I was like, how obvious can these people be? I get it. They're in France. Um, how cold-hearted are you to shoot somebody and then take the bread off of his chest, take a bite? That's weird. But then they go to the shakedown in Harlem, where somebody says, I think he's living above the barber shop. And I think we're supposed to make the connection that's how they started putting some pieces together. Third scene, they go to, we're in France, and the dude's on the cliffs with his hot wife getting a mink coat. Then they're in the Copacabana, and they see all of the wise guys, looking guys, and they start to stake out, and then the plot starts to roll. But it was tough for me to get through those first 5 scenes and have a feel like I know what's going on. And the music is weird. Like I don't know if you would call that a score or whatever they have there. It's just it's there to build tension probably, but it was almost like irksome for me. After that, once everything starts to unroll, I find this really, really entertaining. Like that scene, that car chase scene's incredible. Even the sniper scene, watching Gene Hackman run all over the place. I was like, 4 passes, man, 4 passes. Um, that's a Hoosiers joke for you guys, if you're not okay. So let's see a couple of little interesting things before I wrap up talking about the end of it. The guy who played the Captain Walt Simpson, um, the one who gets him the warrant and whatever, and he's telling the FBI, I gotta. That's the actual guy the book was written about. His name's Eddie Egan, and he was the cop who was, kind of took some liberties with the rules and the professionalism. I like this guy, and just to try and get the job done. So the book was kind of written off him, and he got to play the captain in the movie. I think that's really cool. Um, the girls singing in the cabana, like that's the best music in the whole movie by far, in my opinion. That song is incredible. I don't know how well they did trying to use it in the scene because when Gene Hackman and what's his name are talking, there's no music, and then when they pan back, the music's back on. Like they hit pause on the live performance apparently,
Yeah,
so we could hear the guys
yeah.
talking.
Yep.
And this didn't this win for editing? It won an Oscar for best editing, and I'm like, wow. When in Dan's era, when he was alive and the rest of us weren't, they didn't care much about editing, I guess. Uh, that group though, they're called the Tree Degrees. The 3 degrees or the Tree Degrees. I'm not sure, one or the other. But
Is it Trey like French?
maybe it's Trey Degrees. Yeah, I have it written as tree. I always thought it was 3, so I got my own issues over here. But they performed in this movie. They also performed in the Copacabana in Carlito's Way. I think we've watched that one in the show. Um, the lead singer died in 2007 or 2009, but they have a song in the movie Precious. And then they have another song in 2020 in Harley Quinn Birds of Prey. That's amazing. I don't even know who these girls are. Like I can't think of a song that they're famous for, but that's a lot of years in between for them to keep being part of this process. So I don't know. I think that's cool. Tiny little tidbit of information. I'm really glad you picked it. I really like the action in here. It is gripping, for sure. I don't think Gene Hackman's character Popeye cared at all about shooting that FBI guy. It's almost like he liked it. Um, he didn't care about the rules, like Dan was saying. He was just so tunnel vision minded that he was having a hard time doing the right thing. Almost, like that was. I don't know. It's a hard character to root for because of that kind of stuff. So I think I had another thought here, and it's it's gone because I'm not that smart. But I did want to say something else.
Real quick on the hard character to root for.
Yeah.
I didn't know how I was going to fit this in, or I didn't know until you said it. But when the guy who played the captain, who was actually the guy it's based off of, I think it was him. Maybe it was later. But they're talking about how like you guys lead the department in arrests, and all of them are bullshit, or most of them, right? Like,
Mm.
so how many times are they shaking people down, or just doing stuff that isn't great?
Right.
Before we get to this, like, you know what I mean? Before we even meet these guys. And yes, on this one, because he's so obsessed with finding something, he actually hits something that's significant and is still, the tunnel vision in that. But that just kind of resonates as far as like, even in this best case scenario where they really did, I guess do some good. The road to get there was not great.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and that's probably the reason the thing got written and made into a movie in the first place, right? Because interesting character. Um, it's good to take heroin off the streets in New York, right? I mean, 1971. There's some thoughts about why heroin was on there in the first place, if whether or not people were putting it on the streets on purpose to control a certain part of the culture. There's some of that theory out there. But also, I mean, 1971 is not a nice time for race relations, especially in Harlem. So I could see cops going into a bar like that and just feeling like these people aren't worth as much as other people. And so I can do whatever I want. When I walk in, I own everybody in here. Is kind of like the feeling that you got out of that. And yeah, like I said, that just makes it real hard to root for somebody. Um, so we're recording this the week that Gene Hackman died, and we've seen a. Is this our first Hackman movie, or have we watched Unforgiven?
Yep.
Now I've heard some people talk about Hackman, and I think he's a fine actor, but I will agree with one negative comment about him as an actor. It's that it's almost like he's never acting because his performances are all kind of very similar. You know, he's got the same kind of giggle and laugh, although he didn't do much of that in this movie, unless like he was in the bar just kind of faking. But his angry voice and his like hurry up and go kind of thing, it's very similar in all of his roles. And so I've heard somebody say that, and it's hard for me to get away from that. Having said that, as a young actor playing this role, I get why he gets an Oscar out of it. He really did breathe life into this character. So um, fun to revisit this one. Very important movie to have in the movie club. So I'm glad you picked it. I wouldn't say it's my favorite, but I don't dislike it, especially the last half to a third of the movie with all of that action going on. It's really compelling. And so I don't think that guy drove over that bridge. The French guy, Frog One, I don't. I think he weaseled his way around. Like he's not always wearing a mink coat and a hat and with a cane and an umbrella. So I think he got a little dirty that day and swam from one place to the other and like hid under the bridge and figured his life out after.
All right. Love it. Mr. Smith, you're next.
All right. First time seeing it. I knew it was sort of a classic or considered a classic. Gene Hackman, seen him in a few things. You know, not as good as this in terms of movie acting chops, right? Like Birdcage and Hunt for Red October, and I guess we did watch Unforgiven, but anyway, So I understand why this movie is highly respected. I think the cinematography, I think it won an award for cinematography. That was one of its five, right?
No, it was nominated for
Oh,
cinematography.
nominated.
It
Right.
won. I got them right here, so I'll run them down for everybody. It
Okay.
was Best Picture, Best Actor for Hackman, Best Editing, Best Adapted Screenplay, and Best Director. The ones it was nominated for but did not win were cinematography, sound editing, probably because of that scene in the Copacabana that I previously mentioned, and then supporting actor for Roy
Roy
Schneider.
Schneider.
Roy Schneider. Yeah, so I definitely see the cinematography part of this. That's the wide shots, and then sort of I know they said he tried to do like a documentary style, so they had a
Yeah,
little bit of the shaky cam. Dan talked about the car chase scene. That was spectacular.
yeah.
Every time he hit something, it felt real. And if you read up on it, it seems like some of it might have been real because they forgot to get all the permits they needed. So that's
Right,
interesting.
right, right.
Um, but they put a camera, I guess, on the bumper, which must have been something not terribly usual for movies at the time, but to get those like car point of view shots. Um, and the director himself did the handy cam work in the back because all his other guys had kids, he said. And so he didn't.
That's great.
Just great stories out of that. So yeah, it's a spectacular scene.
Matt, isn't
Um,
that like they could only use like a mile or two
yeah, five
miles,
blocks, not even a
five
mile.
blocks.
They're
That's right.
five blocks.
They did
And
that whole thing with
so
5 blocks.
5 blocks and off-duty police officers who worked on the original case and wanted to help out and all this. Yeah, it was crazy. Like if you read, it's many, many paragraphs, but you should read the story on it. It's
Mm.
crazy. But I believed it. I believed the damage to the car and the great editing with that. Because sometimes in movies they get, the car runs into something, and the next scene, all of a sudden the side's perfectly fine because they kind of cut and spliced. I thought they did a great job with that. Maybe they had to keep whatever they had because they couldn't do it again. But yeah, so I totally understand all that. I'll be honest, I'm with you, Tim. I also watched it on Amazon, so no French titles for me.
Right.
I Okay, here's how we're doing it. I didn't, and I thought maybe that was an artistic choice. Like
That's what
we
I did
don't,
too. Like, oh,
we don't,
bad guy saying bad things.
yeah, we don't want you to know what they're saying. And it's like, okay, that's fine. Um, no, so that was fine. Whatever. It was a little hard for me to follow in the beginning. And maybe that's why, because I didn't have the French being spoken. So now it's the beginning of the movie, right? Um, Hackman's fine. Best actor. I mean, when you look at what he's up against, he didn't have a whole lot. It didn't look like a whole lot of. I think Fiddler on the Roof was up. So the guy who played the main character in Fiddler on the Roof was up, and I forget the other movie that was pretty good at the time. A bunch of people got nominated from it. I had it up before I just closed it, but
Yeah,
anyway,
same.
so I totally see him getting nominated and even winning in that kind of in scenario. The movie wasn't great to me. I think it stands on some of its other merits, especially like I said, the editing and the cinematography stuff. Um, but it's a little hard to follow. I think it's definitely over the top. If you were trying to tell a true story, I thought it was over the top. Now, that could be true, like there could be truth in that. Um, but just some of the choices they made, um, like the baby getting or the mother getting shot by this. I thought that was, I guess that was for, um, like what's the word? Shock value, maybe. I don't know what. I mean, what was the purpose of that? This is real. Okay, it's real, but then he jumps the handrail like I don't know. It just seemed weird, like weird choices and that kind of stuff. And then getting on and off the train, somebody already talked about. Like that went on probably 3 minutes too long. Like they could have
Right.
probably gotten that across with a couple of back and forths, but then to like drag it on that long. Shooting the Fed at the end and just having no reaction whatsoever. Um, I don't care how obsessed you are as a police officer. I would think shooting a fellow agent of anybody in the law would affect you in some way, even if you were like, oops. I mean, he didn't do anything. He just kept going. And then at the end of it, and again, I know it's based on a true story, so part of it is what they had to work with, but at the end of it, everybody gets off. The guy escapes, every sentence is shortened, everybody, like so it was all for nothing. All his damage and destruction and everything else was for nothing. So it's not something I feel like I need to watch again. But I do appreciate that I've watched it again. We've all talked about this in this group. Like, that's why you're in a group like this. So you watch stuff like this, feels like your vegetables a little bit, eating your vegetables, to quote Tim. Um, because I do appreciate some of the movie making here, as opposed to the actual plot and things like that. So yeah, good pick. I wish I liked the movie better, but I do like stuff about the movie. Um, and again, seeing kind of what it was up against in terms of Academy Awards, I can definitely see why it kind of just struck that sweet spot in films that year. So, and this is 2 years before Chinatown, I think I saw. And so
That's right.
that's another movie that I liked, but so maybe this genre is not my thing, but yeah, so good pick, man. I'm glad I watched it. It's definitely something I needed to watch.
I think I think the '70s were strange. I don't know. We'll have to ask Dan more about that later.
Yep.
But,
I mean, between watching Taxi Driver and this movie, you kind of like, I don't need to go to New York. I'm good.
Yeah,
I'm good. I'm
right.
fine right here.
Right.
have you guys
There
ever
was a
watched?
lot of movies like this, like, the Bullet and Dirty Harry. After the riots of the '60s, there was a like call for law and order, and so
Hmm.
people really
Well,
kind of like these.
what was the Urban Cowboy? Right? Is that it?
John
Travolta?
Travolta.
No, damn it. What's the other one that we watched in here?
Oh,
Midnight
Midnight
Cowboy.
Cowboy.
Oh, with
Yeah.
John Voight?
Yeah.
We don't
Get the
talk
move,
about that.
Hey,
get the money first.
We don't
I'm just
talk about
saying,
that.
'70s New York.
Yeah.
The Deuce was a show on HBO. I think I mentioned it here before. I really liked that, and it just um, I don't know. It kind of brought that weird '70s New York vibe forward for Gen X and beyond.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, all right, Mr. Wilden, you're up.
You know, I mean, a couple of people have said things that I kind of think already. I mean, I think Dan said earlier, this feels like one long chase, kind of. I mean, it kind of like, if you really narrowed it down, it's like cops look for bad guy, cops chase bad guy. That's kind of the story here. There's not a ton more to it than that, I guess. Um, I did kind of get lost at different points, especially at the beginning, like Tim said. And Matt was saying this is kind of a eat your vegetables, so I am glad that I watched this too. This has been kind of a long weekend, had a lot on my mind. I've been on call. Um, but I did really, really enjoy the all the chase scenes. I actually really liked the train thing, getting on and off the train too. At least the part where he's like fooling him and then he's waving. I enjoyed that. But imagine how intense those scenes would be at 1.5 times speed.
Why
Because
why would we want to imagine that, Mike?
I forgot about this until it was gonna be not enough time. That's why I originally said to everybody, "Hey, I'm gonna be late," because I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna okay, here we go. I'm gonna watch the movie." And then I thought I like looked at the length of the movie and I looked at how much time I had left. I was like, this might work out perfectly. So that made the chase scenes that much more intense, but also the movie a little harder to follow.
But you still understood the French better than we did, though, even at 1.5
That's
times
that's because
the
I had the French in
pace.
front of me to read an
Just
English
saying.
translation,
Yeah.
regardless of how fast it was. And it honestly didn't seem all that consequential. It really I think like bad guys saying bad things is pretty much what you need to know. Um, I didn't realize until the very last part when that the guy with the cane gets away and they're like telling what happened to everybody. I was like, oh, is this a true story? Is this a like I didn't know what it was based off of. Um, but I was kind of trying to look for just I don't know. I have trouble with movies from the '70s sometimes. Just I don't know, just something about that era and the way that those movies are shot or written or something like that. I don't know what it is, but like sometimes it's just a little like I just kind of lose myself and I lose interest at different points. It's just it's kind of like I will always love the Star Wars: A New Hope. Wonderful movie. But there are times where I'll watch that and I'll be like, why are we spending so much time? It gets feels like it gets boring at points. Um, Obviously when you're a fan and you know all the lore, it's like, it's fine, but just as a movie itself, you're kind of like, oh, okay. Um, but but I was kind of trying to pay attention to some of the just some of the camera work, and like Matt, you said the wide shots, and I did notice there was a lot of zooming in, just a lot of like starting wide and then zooming in on a person and then zooming back out, or like starting in the car lot on a person and then zooming all the way out to show where they were. And there like that was the main thing I noticed, was the zooming back and forth. And then a lot of kind of first person, and I don't know how common that was in movies back then, but they're walking through kind of like that alley and you see all the shit around, and like they're actually moving the camera as if, you're kind of there looking around at all this stuff, and the camera on the bumper. It's like, I don't know. I did kind of enjoy the some of those things that felt like they were probably pretty unique for that point in time. But I do now own this on my YouTube account because that was the only option in order to read this, or in order to watch this, I should say. So I'll inevitably watch it again at some point. But I'm glad I watched it. I'm glad we watched it as a movie group. And yeah, good pick, Malo. Thank you.
You got it, man. Thank you. Uh, yeah, I'm trying to think. So I had the exact same moment where, so going into this, I had read that it was based on a book, and I believe the book follows these French detectives. And it's almost like a Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead situation, where like it follows the French detectives and they mention the American ones kind of a little bit, or they have a very minor, and then this is their story as a movie, and I thought that was kind of cool. And so that was what I knew, and that was what I expected. And then seeing the ending where it was like they're talking about the wife got like 4 months, or like I'm like, I forgot all about her, and that's very specific. What
Yeah.
and it was just like, this has got to be, you know, and I hated the ending, hated it. It was just all that build up, and then literally like just a black screen. You like not, you don't even see him get away. You don't even.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. To each their own, but and then to go into those credits, I was like, okay, I guess that kind of makes sense a little bit as to what they were trying to do there. But the opening credits, I put the first thing I wrote credits, LOL, and then James, she goes, I'm out. She didn't stick it out, but it was pretty funny. I talked about it was kind of like he was trying to see how many different shots he could do from across the street. He zooms in, and then you're just watching him walk around and all that. And it was, I want to say, well done. The reason I hesitate is I don't know if I knew the point of why he was doing all of those different things, or what it added to the story, other than a different view on it. But running in Santa boots has to suck. I don't know what's happening, but somehow it involves Poughkeepsie. And then switch to French, and we even turned the subtitles on, and Nada gifts for some reason. French Annie Hall is
All right.
but then, like Tim said, right, like kind of after that, then we start getting the story. There were some other things. It puts car suspensions were shit in the 70s. I don't know. There were a lot of like long shots, and you just see them like bouncing along. When they were in the restaurant, the two French guys, who, because I knew of the French detectives that the book was based on or followed, and couldn't understand the French, I thought those two bad guys were the French detectives for a really long time. Longer than I probably should have, but I thought it was hilarious when they were in the restaurant. They had escargot and then French onion soup. I was like, all right, They're French. We get
There it is
come
again.
on.
Yep, there it is again.
Tim mentioned something like this. I put not a fan of the score, but I get what they're doing.
Mhm.
Right, like they're trying to you know enhance the tension, but I don't know the way they did it. I wasn't that big a fan of. Let me see. Oh, I don't think anybody's going to remember this or anything, but he gets kicked off special assignment,
Mhm.
and he's just pouty in the street, and there's a kid that walks or rides by on his bike, and I just thought and really wished that he was going to shove the kid off his bike for a second. I thought it was great. Not bad athleticism for a 45-year-old big ass Gene. I didn't know that the car chase scene was with a train. Like I remember seeing different clips and you
Oh.
see, all of that stuff, but I thought he was chasing a car the whole time until watching this. I thought that was just different. Let me see. Okay. So the French finally. So you guys seen the movie Apocalypto?
Mm-mm.
Yes.
Mel Gibson directed. It's about, I believe, Aztec Indians or Aztec tribe folks. And James and I had a similar thing where we watched the movie and the whole thing was in a different language. And we were just like, well, this is an interesting choice. And we went and watched the whole entire thing. And I guess there are subtitles for the whole movie. And this reminded me of that. So anyway, let me see real quick. Well, Tim kind of poo-pooed this a little bit, and I get it because, like, what's his name, Jack Nicholson or Tom Cruise or a lot of even Tom Hanks to some degree. A lot of these guys that are like iconic, great actors, they're still them, or you still see that same similarity through a lot of the thing. But in my head, I'm like, nobody yells like Gene Hackman.
That's true.
Like, like that. He's just really good at that high energy thing. So I didn't watch the second one. I did want to, but what I found most interesting was that there's a French Connection 3, and it's a TV show.
Huh.
You guys know who plays Popeye Doyle? I meant to look at the year. I think it's early 80s.
No,
or if you
I
don't
never
know
even heard of
any guesses.
Early 80s. Ted Knight.
Good guess. Let me see if I
Harrison Ford.
Ooh, I think that'd be great, but I think there's such 86. There's such a disconnect back then between like if you were a movie actor, or if you were a TV actor.
The dude that did Bo Duke in The Dukes of Hazzard.
That's great. Yeah. Good guess. Ed O'Neill.
Ed O'Neill.
Really?
Okay, I could
Yeah.
kind of see it.
I think I could too. Like kind of a, I mean, what's his name? Al Bundy, like down on his luck, but a few years earlier kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I found that interesting.
I do want to watch French Connection 2 since it's fictional story.
Oh, I didn't realize that.
Yeah. I do know that. Yep.
Yeah, it's also I did see highly rated for what it's worth after watching this. I don't know. But the only other thing I had, just the fact that this won Best Adaptive Screenplay, there's so little dialogue in this movie. I mean, just overall, so many scenes, let alone the car chase and all these different things. Which I know screenplay is not just the dialogue, but interesting. So
maybe that stuff in French was mind-blowing.
Maybe.
Really carries the whole thing.
We'll never know. We got I don't know.
could you imagine the screenplay just for like 15 minutes? They speak French.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Bad guys saying bad things in French.
Genius award.
Yeah.
All right. Oh, the last thing. Worst blood ever.
Yeah, that
This
car wreck
movie
scene.
has the
Yeah.
worst blood ever. From the opening shot in the face.
Yeah, that was
to-
weird.
Looked like neon ketchup.
Yeah, it was,
was
not
Wasn't
good.
even, wasn't even close.
Not good.
Well, it didn't get nominated for best special effects. We know that.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Anyway,
Right.
that's French Connection. Appreciate you guys taking the
Does
trip with me.
Matt, you want to do it or you want me to do it?
I don't. Well, see, Malo watches, I think, a big screen, right, of people talking, and so he doesn't realize that Hilty's here.
Hilty's been here for a little while.
He's
and
been
he
here for a
hasn't
little
had chance
while
to say
because he
anything
doesn't
about
watch the
movie yet.
grid. He watches the speaker. I
Oh,
think.
the person.
I have to change it every time. I apologize. And I didn't change it tonight until just now. Shit.
Yeah, that's great.
For most of you.
It's so as I think one of the only other people in this group who's done this, I
Yep.
feel your pain, Ryan, because I once skipped Tim almost. So
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so I feel your pain.
He didn't chime in on anything.
Well, you started going. I'm like, I wonder if he doesn't know Mike's here. And
After
then
a few minutes, I'm like, yeah.
So
by the
actually,
time
I'll
you
do a little. This is like not being able to read the French in the movie when we were watching it because there were a couple of facial expressions that I can help you through. When you said wanted to watch French Connection 2, Hilty did one of these. I don't know if it's that good. And then
That was a good Hilty.
yeah, thank you. And I thought I remembered another one, but now I don't. So that's he just he looked off to the side and as if he was pondering a lot.
I'm very sorry.
I'm sorry, Malo.
Please
You
share your
were
thoughts.
you were well
No, I'm
into
glad
your
somebody
you were well
finally
into your
said something.
monologue. I didn't want to interrupt you. I
Yeah,
figured it'd be
that's-
easier that way.
Halfway through that, I was like, he forgot Hilty's here. I got about halfway
Didn't
through.
forget it.
I don't think forgot is the right word. I think
Yeah.
he
Right.
just didn't realize I was here. So it's all good.
Set
But
defaults.
that's also what I get for showing up like 20 minutes late. So it's all good. I feel like most of everything that I was gonna say has already been said. So I think I like this a little bit better than you all, but I also don't love it either. So it's good. I wouldn't call it a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. Um, Something that you all said about Gene Hackman, kind of playing similar roles in a lot of his movies, and I can see that because I was in the middle of reading an article about Gene Hackman after he passed away. It said Gene Hackman loved acting but hated everything that went into it because he hated everything about Hollywood. He just Hollywood wasn't his thing, and he is also notorious for being a giant asshole on set. So
I have heard that. Yeah.
yeah, he's been known to be very difficult to work with on set. He clashed with William Friedkin on this as well. Um, this is a character that he found very difficult to play because he wanted to make the character more relatable, and the director was like, "No, we want to make this guy very gruff, very, kind of a jerk." So
Seems like good casting.
I mean, what everyone's saying about movies in the 70s is pretty true because, this was a revolutionary time for Hollywood. But if you look back at a lot of these movies and you compare, not so much compare them, but you look back at the movies in the 70s and then you look at all the movies that are out today. It's like, how
Yeah.
is this? How is this like an innovative time in Hollywood? But it's innovative for, I would say it's innovative for a lot of the like cinematography choices and the kind of like the grittiness and
That's
kind
the
of
word I was
some
going to use. Yeah,
some
they got grittier.
yeah, and probably some story choices, but in terms of like stories actually, I don't know, like with the exception of things like Star Wars, a lot of things they're based on books and You know, it's just very interesting just hearing what you all are saying about 70s Hollywood. And I was like, I do agree with you all, but it's also like for somebody who's been watching movies and has been kind of involved with movies, I always thought that I was kind of an outsider looking in that opinion. So I'm kind of glad that this kind of validates that a little bit. Um, and the car chase is great. Like the story for this, the I think one of the things that I struggle with the story of this is that even the guy um that this is based on said it's like, yeah, this is like very Hollywoodized. You know, like the real story of this is nowhere near as violent as the story is in the movie. So take that for what you will, I guess, but it's I don't know. I do enjoy this movie. The car chase is pretty great, but like I was watching a debate show with a couple people where they were arguing for the best car chases, and this came up. The one in the Born Identity came up, and then the one that ultimately won was the one from the Matrix Reloaded, that highway chase, which again, like this got points knocked down because it's an older car chase and it's like nowhere near as exciting as, some of those current ones. It's like, doesn't this one get points for being the first? And the answer is no, it doesn't, because again, you compare it to what's out there today and what Hollywood has done to continue to evolve. This feels very tame compared to some of those other ones, but doesn't change the fact that the car chase scene in this is iconic. Um, I I get what everyone's saying about the French at the beginning and it being a little hard to follow. That is kind of the thing that sucks about watching this on Amazon versus watching this, on like an actual physical disc or watching this on like another streaming service besides Amazon. But that's just kind of part of the draw, I suppose. So, other than that, I agree with what everyone else said.
How do we feel about Roy Scheider getting an Oscar nomination for supporting actor here? I was thinking about that, and there's just not that many opportunities. Not like he didn't do a great job with what he was doing, but it just didn't seem like a lot of opportunities for him to really show some passionate scenes or like anything. I didn't see many opportunities there, so it seems kind of odd to me.
I mean, it was the 70s when when the Oscar pool was maybe about like 20 movies. So,
Okay.
I mean, that's a gross underestimation, but definitely not as many movies to choose from as opposed to what we have today. But yeah, probably not a lot of choices. And then also this is where campaigning probably came to play as well,
Mm.
because you can submit as many as you want and then it's all about campaigning, which is kind of one of the things that sucks about the Oscars,
Yeah,
because
that's
it really is
interesting.
all about the campaign versus quality sometimes.
Yeah. The other thing I was going to say is the budget on this was about 2 million, and the gross was 75 million. So they did all right.
Oh,
they
They
Yeah.
they
they did all
they did
right.
all right, especially considering that a lot, like pretty much every major studio passed on this. they
Hmm.
they thought that 1.8 million dollars was very risky for something like this, which back then, yeah, it was, especially for largely an unproven actor like Gene Hackman, who not really known for carrying a blockbuster movie, which, yeah, that's fair, but a lot of the major studios didn't find the appeal of something like this. And this is the first R-rated movie to win Best Picture as well,
Oh, interesting.
which is interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost like seeing it for the first time here in the 2020s and looking back at a 1971 film. Um, like you guys were saying, maybe it's more the contributions that it did and where it was at for its time. It's hard to tell when you're looking back in time, right? So
Yep.
So one thing I don't think we talked about this. What you guys think about the end with the single shot, and then basically the movie ends. What was that single shot? I know Malo said didn't like the ending, but what did that mean?
I agree, because that was confusing. Because why even have the shot? And then the
Right.
next thing is like, oh, he got away. I guess he missed. I I don't know. That's
he
my
shot
guess.
another
That's
cop.
I
I
but
don't
that's
know.
what I was assuming that he missed.
I mean, we're all pretty sure we saw Frog One there, right? He had the cane. He walked by, and that's why he ran in there. And then you get a little disoriented because it wasn't a single shot. So you switch angles, and then all of a sudden he shoots the cop. And I don't know if that was coming in from behind him or in front of him or what the FBI guy Bill something. But I got a little disoriented trying to follow where the French guy had gone. Um, I don't know. Maybe that's by design. But yeah, he goes in, he takes a shot, and then all of a sudden you're just looking at this is what happened later, and yeah, it was weird, very abrupt, very very abrupt.
You know who else doesn't like the ending? The director.
Really
Oh yeah, he doesn't understand understand what he was asked to do in that as well. So he's not a huge fan of that. He ended up getting overruled by the studio, I suppose.
interesting.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you could tell it's
have some
just
say
not.
in that.
What's that? Hello?
Didn't he have some say in that?
Yeah, he had some say in it, but he doesn't get final say over it. That's why we have director's cuts because
Yeah.
so many that's why Zack Snyder's Justice League is
Justice
like
League's
6
4
hours
hours.
long and
Yeah.
adds in like all the stuff that the studio was like, no, this isn't going to appeal to a general audience. And a lot of times, studios wrong.
Yeah, and maybe it was a runtime thing because this is pretty short, and in the '70s, movies weren't that long, so maybe they had a better ending, and they were like, nope, you got to edit it here and here. I mean, they let him shoot a cop for God's sake. I don't know.
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know. Some good questions there, Matt. Do some research and get to the bottom of that, and get back to us. So it sounds like we've got a wrap here on the French Connection. Dan, it's your pick. It's once again you can make a connection to one of the last movies that we had in our last round, or you can go with whatever you wanted to go with. What do you got for us?
All right. Yeah, I kind of lost track of what we did in the last round, so
Fair.
I just decided to go with what I felt like. The last movie I did, I think it was okay received, but people felt there wasn't a whole lot to talk about with it. It was a movie I had never seen before. So I decided to try again with a movie I haven't seen before and see if this one goes over better. So I decided I'm going to do Sing Sing.
Sing. I have
Yeah,
not seen it either.
yeah, this just came out last year.
It's a great pick, Dan. It's a great pick.
It's right now it's renting, but according to the internet, and everything's believable on the internet, it's going to be on Max starting Friday.
Cool. So we can wait till the last minute to watch this thing and see what happens.
Yep.
But
like
you gotta watch it at 2 times speed at least.
Yeah.
Maybe 1.5, depending on the time.
I was thinking when Wilden watches this the second time around, French Connection, you're gonna have to do half speed just to keep the average up. It's gonna be tough. It's gonna be tough, especially that first couple of scenes going slow. That French detective's never gonna get shot with his French bread. That is really funny. The choices for what they had for food, like, hey, these are French guys.
Seriously. And then the other thing, so they tore apart that whole car, and no one thought about the rocker panel.
That's where I was like, how did we get to emptying the oil pan before going through the rocker panel?
Right.
And I was a little confused there because I'm like, they put that whole car back together in a
Yes.
couple hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I can go with the guy who's in charge of taking cars apart piece by piece for this particular thing is probably good at taking it apart and putting it back together. I can get on board with that. But that thing was just completely dismantled with two dudes waiting in the next door, like, where's my car? And all of a sudden they're like, here it is. Sorry for the wait. And because of the
Yeah,
transgression,
I thought they must have switched plates. I'm like, they didn't arrest, they just gave him a car. I didn't think they put the stuff back in it and then gave it to him.
right.
And so I thought, they were still setting them up to find the buyers. But yeah, at no point did I think that it was plausible it was the same car.
I mean, they were cutting like the fabric on the ceiling of the car. I mean, it's a little unbelievable.
Yeah.
And how's the guy like, I took everything apart but the rocker panels? I mean, that's one point where Gene Hackman yelling at him makes sense. Irv, get your ass back over there and take those rocker panels out.
I did. I guess there was truth to the whole weight thing.
Oh,
The way it played out, probably not. But there was something to that the weight was off from the standard weight, and so that based on that, they knew that it was in there somewhere.
that's cool. I like that. What they found didn't really also match up to how many pounds the car was off. It was off like a couple of 100 pounds, and we saw 2 bags that couldn't have weighed more than 5 pounds. Like there was some pieces of this that didn't really add up in that scene, but I liked the scene and I liked what it did for the plot,
So in
But
the
yeah.
real life I think it was like 120 pounds off. Is that how much was in there? 120 pounds? Because that would be a lot of
That's what I'm saying.
I think so. I don't know. And it might not have been the rocker panels. Who knows? They might have just had the shit in the trunk. But
Yeah. All right. We look forward to talking about Sing Sing next time. You guys have yourselves a great week.
That'll do it for this episode of the BTB Movie Club podcast. Thank you as always for listening. We know we enjoyed ourselves. We hope you did too. Have yourselves a great week. We are partnered with the SBDM Crew Podcasting Network.